Welcome back for another beer tasting experience. I'm Kevin with CrafTeeBeer, and by beer tasting experience, I simply mean I found yet another beer I want to try. So I'm going to try this beer and share the experience with you. And now you want to know, well, what do we have for today's beer tasting experience? We've got a Mexican amber lager. This Mexican lager is from Artifex Brewing. They're in San Clemente, California. They were started in 2014 by Tom Cordato and his son Nicholas and a few other people. And this is the most interesting can in the world. No, that's the beer, the most interesting can in the world. And it is the Mexican style amber lager. It's a 6.5% ABV. So the Mexican lager style apparently is just based on the Vienna lager style. I guess a large German population or expats ended up in Mexico at some point. One of them was Santiago Graf. He brought the Vienna style with him. I think that he added corn to the style, so it changed it a little bit. Based on the Vienna malt, which is a lightly kilned malt, which gives the beer an amber color. Lagers being beer that's fermented with lager yeast versus ale yeast, so bottom ferments at cooler temperatures.
That's cold.
But basically a lager based on the Vienna malt, but a little bit different. And then of course this is an American style Mexican lager, so as any time an American style or an American brewer takes a style, they don't necessarily conform to the true style guidelines. They can be quite varied.
Why do we have to conform to what you want?
So the can looks like, typical Mexican or Aztec artwork. It's just brown and gold. And the name of it, the most interesting can in the world, is obviously a play on the Dos Equis Most Interesting Man on the World advertising campaign that ran from 2006 until this year, 2018.
He is the most interesting man in the world.
So it's a 16-ounce can. And I believe this is a collaboration with Horace. Horace Aged Ales, I believe they're in Oceanside, California, and they're actually a part-time brewery. I believe the person that owns it is an accountant full-time and brews aged ales part-time. All of his ales are done in barrels or oak barrels. His thing is that he doesn't use stainless to ferment any of his beers. So this is a collaboration with Horace. All right, so let's get the most interesting can in the world out of the can and into a glass and see what we've got for this Mexican lager.
Do it.
So Vienna malt is supposed to be amber in color for the degree that it's kilned. This thing is spot on.
Actually, that is spot on.
And lagers are usually much clearer than ales. So this thing is completely as advertised. And as I always say, man, that's a good looking beer. So it's copper in color, finger and a half of white loose head. I can see objects through it, so it's very clear, although it's a dark amber copper color. Carbonation's going pretty well in there. So this looks like a lager.
Because that's what it is.
So let's go in and see what it smells like. It's got that very typical lager yeast smell. So slightly roasted malts. I get that grainy, husky smell. Not very strong. Yeah, it's that grainy, malty, slightly, not necessarily funky, but sort of funky lager yeast smell. Just very typical of a lager. So let's give it a try. Here's to the most interesting can in the world. Cheers. So a sweet, malty, maybe a little bit nutty flavor. Leaves a little grainy flavor behind. It's not a clean, crisp lager like, you know, some American lagers would be. You know, touch of vegetable maybe. So a malty, grainy, nutty, slightly vegetable, typical lager flavor. Doesn't leave anything mouthfeel behind, but definitely leaves a little, maybe slightly smoky flavor behind. Has a little bit of that European skunk flavor to it. Yeah, so it's a medium malty, grainy, slightly spicy, with that hard to describe lager yeasty flavor that if you know lagers, and maybe a touch of that European beer skunkiness, just hints on the outside of that. It's complex for a lager, and complex, I guess, mostly because some of the flavors are hard to describe.
I would describe it.
But it's got a little bit of a peppery spice to it that stays behind. Of course, it's a typical lager as far as it's pretty light bodied. It's medium carbonation. So Mexican lager, I guess this fits the bill. Kind of has what you'd expect. I mean, it looks the part. It's got a grainy, maybe nutty, definitely like a spicy, slightly peppery flavor with a touch of that European skunk, if that's the right description.
Close enough.
Not bad, you know, not in a bad way. So that makes it a little complex, light-bodied, fairly carbonated Mexican lager. So that's just what it is. There's nothing more to it than that. Let's go head over to Untapped and check this in. Another one checked in. So this is another one of those beers where I just have a hard time really describing it. And maybe it's lagers. I just can't describe that lager flavor. So maybe it's whatever you get from a lager yeast. But I find it hard to wrap my head around what does it taste like and how to describe it other than it tastes like a lager. So I checked it in. I did a 3.25 rating on Untapped. It's just, I guess, an okay beer for me. Went with the flavor profile of dark, bready, nutty, and sweetness. So it's got a little bit of malt sweetness. It's got, I think, nutty. It's got some spicy, and it's got that prominent flavor, which I can only describe that I get from lagers. So if you have a way to describe it or you know what that is, absolutely let me know. Leave me a comment. But anyways, another one checked in on Untapped. Another beer tasting experience in the books. The most interesting can in the world, Artifex Brewing, San Clemente, California. If you've had it, leave me a comment. If you can put your finger on what most lagers have for that distinct flavor, absolutely give me a comment. Find me on Untapped, it's CrafTeeBeer. Social media nonsense is all in the comments below. Subscribe, and until the next beer experience, I'm Kevin with CrafTeeBeer. Cheers, and stay thirsty, my friends.